Ok, ciao amici, hey friends. Welcome to micheleferracin.it. This evening we have a guest that doesn't need an introduction, Scott Hanselman. Thank you so much for being here. How are you, Scott?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me.
It's been a long time writing with emails to find a sweet spot to have this live stream, and we did it. Thank you. So today we will talk about being a developer in 2026 and vibe coding and learning to as mindsets. Of course, we will take comments and questions from the audience. And so, ciao a tutti, hi everybody who is connected to us, and feel free to drop a comment in the chat. So, Scott, first off, congratulations on the evolution of your role. I've seen recently on LinkedIn, your transitioned from VP of Developer Community to Vice President and Microsoft GitHub.
Well, so what I'm doing is working more closely with GitHub because GitHub Copilot CLI, as you know, is plugged into Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. Microsoft and GitHub are always together. So recently I've changed my role from being a developer community, which I had a whole team. Now that team and James Montemagno and all of our friends that we know in the developer community team are now going to work more closely with Martin Woodward and our friends at GitHub. So, you know, all the things that are good about GitHub, all the things that are good about Microsoft, and all the things that are good about coding and Azure smushed together. And then I'm just going to have the title member of technical staff, and I'll work on specific little things, sneaking around like a ninja.
Okay, so does it mean technical stuff? Does it mean that you are still coding every day?
Yeah, I'm actually, if you look at my GitHub graph, it's a lot more green since last year.
Okay, so we are not seeing the moment you became a manager when the commit graph is turning darker and darker, right?
Yeah. I think you'll see that it's becoming more and more green for sure right now.
Is it you or are agents on behalf of Scott?
I think it's a little bit of both. In fact, for example, you know, I've been playing with this OpenClaw, playing with this little robot. I would probably say 70% agents and 30% me. That's an interesting question though, because it does ask yourself. It makes one ask one's self, who is doing the coding, right? Am I just the conductor of the orchestra?
Yes. And we are starting with 2026 with a huge acceleration in agentic coding. I don't know in specific what happened recently, but starting from late November, December, everything got a huge step forward.
Yeah, I feel like it was a combination of Codex on the OpenAI side and Opus on the Claude side, plus things like Claude Code, things like GitHub Copilot CLI. I think there's kind of three levels, because if you remember when we first started thinking about Copilot, we thought about it as spicy autocomplete. You know, you start typing and then it gives you the next thing that you're about to type. So it's kind of a next token predictor for your code.
The ghost text.
Ghost text, exactly. And then we saw chatting to it in a separate pane. And then we saw a tool calling where within that response coming back from the chatbot, instead of saying, hey, can you run the directory and paste back what's in the directory? It would just call the directory itself. And instead of saying, oh, I can't see that code, can you paste that code in here? It would just go and look at it. And then we started to see what are called agentic loops, where the feedback kind of feeds on itself and it gets more and more and more accurate. And those agents really kind of kicked it into high gear, I would say October, November. And then over the Christmas holiday, when everybody went home for Christmas, I think all the nerds stayed up late. And then software engineering has changed for a lot of people.
Yeah, for example, I vibe coded a front-end application for Marvel Zombie, a board game where Marvel heroes are zombie and so on. And the hero turn is quite complicated. You have to remember a lot of steps, manage your health, and so on. And while I was playing with my brother, we said, "Wow, if there was an app for this," and I vibe coded it in one day.
That's crazy. See, all of the little silly things that we want to do but never had a weekend for, like
Exactly.
wanting to make this little robot connect to GitHub Copilot, so when the build finishes, it would do a little dance.
Okay.
I'm not going to spend 6 hours on that. Like, I don't have the time, but I'll spend a half an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. So we can say that senior, like me, and moreover, more so you, and like you shared with Mark Rusinovich on your podcast, Scott and Mark Learn Too. 2026, being a developer in this age is, if you are a senior, you have a boost, but if you are a junior, maybe you have a drag, right?
Yeah, this is a theory that Mark and I have, that at some point in your experience arc, I don't know if it's 5 years or 10 years or 3 years, you start to develop a sense of smell, a sense of code smell, a sense of good taste, right? And I think you can appreciate like what good taste is, you know?
Yeah.
You just kind of know, right? This is part of your culture, right? It's part of our culture, our shared coding culture, but also your culture. And when you have a good taste, you don't really know how to explain it, you just know.
Yeah.
So if your agent is coding for you, you have to be able to go, ooh, that's overcooked. Ooh, that's undercooked. That's not, al dente.
It smells badly.
It doesn't. Yeah, exactly. So when do junior engineers develop good taste is the question that we don't know the answer to.
Yeah. It's maybe around 3 years, 5 years. We don't know.
We don't know. Exactly. And then there's all the little things that we remember because we've been doing this for many years, where we can catch the AI when it's starting to go off the road, and it's just like, oh, no, come back over here. This is where you want to go. So I'm finding the ability to steer GitHub Copilot CLI to be very useful. So you can talk to it while it's doing stuff.
You can see the reasoning and you can steer the conversation while it's going.
Exactly. And then the other thing that I've been doing a lot lately is using a tool called Handy, which is a speech to text, because my hands don't work the way they used to. And my brain can think faster than my hands can type. So I do all of my coding now by voice.
Isn't Windows H, the voice control of Windows, enough? Isn't it enough?
So Windows H is good, but it really hasn't changed in 10 or 15 years.
Oh.
Okay. And Handy has 7 or 8 different open source models that you can download depending on the size of your GPU. And they're Whisper models from OpenAI and Parakeet. And these different models are extremely high quality. And I have found that they are much, much more superior than Windows H. Windows H is great, but Handy,
I'm taking note.
It's handy.computer.
Definitely try.
Yeah.
The issue with these tools is that maybe they are very good with English, but not so trained well with Italian and so on. And so maybe sometimes I find myself talking in English to be understood better. Okay.
Well, I'm looking in the list here, and Italian is in the list for Handy.
Okay, nice.
So try it out.
Thank you very much. So the noise about agentic coding on social media, new tools, models, vibe coding is it's a challenge. So from your perspective, what can we do to stay grounded and leverage AI as professional in our every day-to-day developer and coding activities?
I think that in watching the GitHub team ship GitHub Copilot. I think they have a team of like 7 or 8 people, and they're shipping hundreds of PRs every week. Is that it's not that they code less, it's that they review more. If people think that agents mean you just get to code more, full stop, what's happening is they're shifting, and instead of spending 70% of their time coding and 20% reviewing, they're spending 20% coding and 70% reviewing. So they're reading code much more than they are writing it.
So is writing software becoming a commodity?
I think writing boring software is. An example that I'll give is, for my podcast, I never had a back-end administrative tool. I never had admin.Hansleman. I only had the main front end.
The coffee, right, so to speak.
So I would go and I would edit the JSON files manually. And it's like, I don't want to write an admin. It's boring. But I can vibe an admin, and that became extremely easy. And that was done in about an hour. So boring software will become commoditized, but good, solid, secure, interesting software, I think that's where we'll be spending our time.
Yeah, I think you made an interesting point, because you talk about a personal productivity tool, a tool you use on your own and for your personal productivity. But would you have the same approach on a professional code base for software that's running in production?
I think that I tend to write software using what I call fear-driven development, or FDD. So, we hear about TDD and DDD and all these different things. So fear-based development means, do I understand what's going on here? If not, am I afraid of this software? And if I am afraid of the software, I will take more care with the software. That means I will write more tests. I will write as many tests as possible until I am no longer afraid. I will read the tests manually and make sure that I am not afraid. So I think you have to have a good, healthy fear of your software.
Yeah, that's a good one. I've always heard about Stack Overflow driven development, for example.
Yeah, sure.
But that's a new one.
Yeah.
Always learning. So you, Scott, are a teacher. Fundamentally for life, and you enjoy teaching. And so what do you think we need to teach to the new generation, to the next generation? Because when I started with Turbo Pascal when I was 13 or 14, something like that. No IntelliSense, pure text editor, and by trial and error with the compiler errors and so on. I don't know anymore how to teach the very basic stuff of programming. So what's the path for someone who is getting started right now?
So the analogy that I use that might work in America, but maybe doesn't work in Italy, is there's a lot of young people that don't know how to drive a manual shift car. Do you drive manual shift?
Yeah, of course. We learn with manual shift.
Right. So people don't realize that in America, 97% of the cars are automatic.
Okay.
I think this is a fair statement, most Americans can't drive stick shift.
Okay.
So what does that mean? Well, that means that there's a new generation that not only can't drive stick shift, but they also can't drive at all because they take an Uber. So if Uber is software as a service, I think we need to ask ourselves, can I drive an automatic? Can I drive a stick? Can I change a tire? Can I change the oil? Right? So what is the equivalent in coding? Well, I mean, if you can make a React site, great. But do you know how to write sites without React? Do you understand how JavaScript works? Do you understand how JavaScript is ultimately compiled and JITted? Do you understand how the V8 engine works, or how Bun works, or whatever engine that's running your JavaScript? If the browser is your operating system, that could cause you trouble at some point if your operating system changes and it becomes something that you're not familiar with. So you should try to drive stick. It doesn't mean you should do it every day. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person if you don't enjoy driving stick, but you should at least know that stick shift exists. And, every couple of months go, why did we ever drive like this? And then go back to driving your Uber.
And if I remember correctly, you talk about going one level deep in your from your comfort zone.
Exactly. That's great. I love that you brought that up, because that's exactly how I think about it. So if you are a C# developer, do you know how C# turns into intermediate language and goes one level below? If you write Python, try writing a little bit of C and plugging your Python into it. Crack open a Python library and see how that works. I worked with a senior engineer recently, and they were mostly JavaScript. They didn't really know the difference between x86, x64, and ARM.
Okay.
And my initial reaction was like, how do you function? How do you live? And they're like, it just works. So for them, that abstraction is something they just don't think about. And that's not bad. They are a very successful engineer. The issue is, what happens when the abstraction leaks? What happens when you get an ARM machine and suddenly the library that you want isn't there? Then suddenly you're driving stick shift.
Yeah, or when you are facing an issue in production or something like that, and you need to debug and understand stack traces and so on.
Exactly. And saying to the AI, well, I don't know, it doesn't work, is probably not going to help you. It's funny. There's a joke that everyone sees on Twitter and on social media where someone is tweeting, I made the world's best application. I just vibed it. I didn't write any code at all. Check it out. Localhost 3000.
Nice. Yeah.
Right? Like, that's just kind of like what we're dealing with. And I think that learning about the fundamentals, you don't have to learn on an old Altair, but you got to know like the little bit of history.
Yeah, of course. And you and Mark Rusinovich also talked about taking a dump.
Yeah, so that one's funny one. I don't know if that one worked in Italian. Is this the same term? Do you know what this means?
Yeah, more or less. Yes.
Right. So there's all those little funny things that we say in programming. But like if you take a dump and use the restroom versus you take a dump and you take your process and you dump it and you dump its memory and then go and look at it. In both situations, you end up with something gross that you have to deal with.
Yeah, we have, I think, a question from Carlos Sacchi. I'm afraid, he's saying, is it possible that just that it works creates bloated code bases because they are made without much criteria and logic?
Absolutely. That is an excellent question. And I think it's a very valid question that we have to ask ourselves, that if we don't know how this code got written and we don't know why it got written and we never looked at it, we never reviewed it, and we don't know if the AI created code just to get it working. Like, we've seen AIs comment out tests, and lie and say, "Oh, I can't fix that test. I'll just go and mark, hit return." We are still in a time frame where large amounts of code haven't been made. But like an example would be this new OpenClaw Claude bot that everyone's talking about. According to Peter, the creator, like 99% of it was made with Codex.
Okay.
Is that a bloated code base? I don't know. Does it work? It absolutely works. But I don't think anyone's done a full kind of formal review. And this is the other question. Does it have good taste? I don't know. It seems to be working pretty well. Like, success is a pretty good metric.
Yes, from a business perspective, yes. Yeah,
exactly. But then will it be a problem in 5 years, 10 years? Who knows?
We don't. Exactly. We don't know. So I see a recurring theme here, so that we must spend more time review our code instead of writing.
100% agree.
Otherwise, maybe we will find ourselves with a pile of technical debt. Instead of human-generated code, it will be AI-generated code, and it will be much more lines.
Agreed. But I also want to call out that there seems to be, as all things right now in our lives, a binary where it's like, it's amazing, I'm going to do everything in AI, or it sucks and it's evil and it should be stopped. And as with all things, it's a spectrum, right?
Yeah.
Everything in life is a spectrum. It's never black and white. It's always a little bit of gray. So for someone to say, I'm going to vibe everything, hey man, I never even seen the code, I don't think that's realistic.
Yeah.
And then for someone to say, it's garbage, it's trash, and I won't use it ever, like there are things that humans are really good at, and that's creativity, in my opinion.
Yes.
And then there's stuff that we don't like doing, which is just toil and tedious. But then we have to ask ourselves, what's craft? Like if you're a craftsman or a craftsperson, like a cobbler. Do you have cobblers in Italy? Like they fix your shoes?
Yeah, not so many, but yeah, we have.
But are they respected? I mean, this is a dying art, right? This is to be a shoemaker and fixer and a cobbler. That's an art. But you can always just buy cheap Chinese shoes and have them sent to you by Amazon, right?
Yeah.
So that's a binary that's kind of artificial. Somewhere in the middle is the reality. Both things have value.
Yeah. I love how you can always find the analogies from technical world to everyday world.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
They are very useful to understand and to understand topics. So, okay, so here we are talking about learning, and your recent podcast. Scott and Mark Learn To, and of course it's your podcast because your name is the first name.
Yeah, we always argue about that. We have both domains.
Mark and Scott and Scott.
We have Mark and Scott and Scott and Mark. So yeah, in case I'm in trouble that day.
Okay, and learning here is key. We are in a field the technology field is moving very fast, and so my question to you here is learning a key aspect for a software engineer, the ability to always learn?
100%. I think it's arguably the only skill that we have. I'm looking up on my wall here. I've got my degree, my software engineering degree, and I'm realizing that all of those languages, all of those operating systems, everything that I learned in school is gone.
Yeah.
Like I don't code in C anymore. I mean, I know C and I learned C, but I spent that entire degree learning Windows 3.1 and C and Turbo Pascal. And while I suppose I could be a Delphi programmer, I think we can agree that 90% of the things we learned in school are gone. So then what did we learn in school? If you did it right, you learned how to learn.
Yeah.
And that's what, it's kept me going for 34 years.
Yeah. I agree 100%. It's we go there to learn a methodology to always learn and build on the foundation of our experience. That, of course, is it's gold for us because it has taken where we are. But to move forward, I think that learning is a key aspect for a career of software engineer. Okay, so I think we have another comment in the chat from 1815, etc. Even if vibe coding is not a gatekeeper for junior careers, what is the risk for slowing innovation in frameworks and runtimes, given code generation diminishes the return on reuse? Oh,
I don't understand that question.
Neither do I. What is
Well, so like there's a couple. There's a number of. Maybe you can give us more detail, friend. But there's many questions within that, multiple comments. So, vibe coding for juniors is going to be a challenge because if you don't speak, we'll use English as an example. If you speak poor English and you vibe a degree, if you vibe an entire paper, and then the teacher says, "Oh, this is amazing, Michelle. You wrote this whole thing yourself." could you read it to the class? And then you realize, wow, I thought I spoke English, but I don't know English, right? I could vibe an entire thing in Italian and then present it to you, and you'll be like, I don't think you really speak Italian, do you, Scott? Right? So that's the danger of a junior vibing their way into a job or into coding. Now, as far as how that relates to frameworks and runtimes, I don't think you could vibe .NET or all of Python, right? And I think to Carlo's point, that could create a bloated code base. But if the work is well understood and it is, like I said, toil, then vibing it is really just a matter of pulling it out of what's called the corpus, the place that all of this data was originally learned from. And doing tedious work like that, I think, is great. So making a website that's a database on top of some existing well understood data, that's no fun. Nobody wants to do that kind of stuff. As far as the risk of slowing innovation, I don't know. That sounds like that's a question around kind of like capitalism, because like how fast do we have to go? You know, we're always asking, go, 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 go. Like, but when it will be over?
Okay.
They always told us that AI would give us 20% more productivity. And I always like to joke, when do I get Fridays off? If I get 20% more productivity, I'll have a siesta on Friday.
Right.
But somehow I'm working more than ever. I don't know if you are, but it never stops now.
Instead, we are leveraging AI to ship more or more quality features.
Yep, exactly. So I don't have an answer, but I do know that learning is the only thing that we have, and creativity and good taste. We'll make that'll be a GIF.
Yeah, why not? So Scott, I know your time is valuable and I really appreciate you spending it with us. And I want just to touch very briefly a topic that it's about ethics of AI and something like that. And it's a word that I can't pronunciate very well in English. It's anthropomorphizing.
Ooh,
AI.
Great job. That's exactly right. Anthropomorphizing, pretending that an AI is human or feeling like an AI is human.
Yeah. And what's the danger of it? Can you explain a little bit for us?
Well, people can do what's called whataboutism. Whataboutism is what people on Twitter do, where you say something that should not be controversial. It's a statement that's very reasonable. And they'll go, yeah, but what about this and what about that? And they're like, and they'll put their like little, philosophical questions on. It's like, well, what is humanity anyway, man? Like, what is consciousness, bro? It's not conscious. Like it's a large language model. And I know that analogies are fun, and I know I'm the worst analogy person. Like I'm known for my analogies, but like a large language model is a really, really, really good word guesser.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And, you've known me a while and you know my stories. And given that you have Hansleman context, sometimes you know what I'm going to say. Even in this interview, you're like, oh, here he goes. Classic Hansleman. I know that story, right? Because you've heard that story before. Stick shift, you've heard it. So with enough context, you could guess my next word. So then the question is, am I just a large language model version of myself? Right? Am I just predicting my next tokens? Who am I? What is my consciousness? But a large language model doesn't have goals. It doesn't have feelings. It's not doing anything right now. It's just sitting on the disk waiting for me to do stuff. So a chatbot is a chatbot, but an agent is a chatbot that can do stuff.
In a while loop.
In a while loop, exactly. And the problem with the while loop is the while true, which is forever.
Of course.
Right? So if an agent is a chatbot plus tools plus the permission to do something that we give it, then the danger is giving total access to an agent that only knows how to repeat loops. Now, people will say, well, this is it's like Skynet. Like, I've seen Terminator. I know how this ends. No, it's not the fear is not Skynet waking up. It's just code without any limits executing unauthorized actions. So,
thank you.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Sorry, I know I'm on a rant now, but people seem to think that, like, my Alexa is not alive. It doesn't. It's just very persistent. It has a goal.
The very first editions of Alexa, I think it was implemented with the Wizard of Oz technique, with the real people doing stuff on the background and then answering.
There's actually there's a word for that. If you want, have you ever heard the term mechanical Turk?
Nope.
Okay, so back in the 1800s, when you go to the carnival, you go to like see the clowns and the they would have a mechanical Turkish person that was like a robot body.
Okay.
And he would have like cards in front of him and he can do stuff. And it was a robot. And people were like, oh my gosh, have you seen the mechanical Turk? It's amazing. But it was just a guy in a box with his hand up the Turk being like a puppet. So Amazon used to have a product called Mechanical Turk, and it would do stuff for you. So you would give it a small task, like give it a picture and say, is this a cat or is this not a cat? So then if you had a bunch of pictures of cats and you wanted to go and do machine learning, it wouldn't do it with machine learning. It would do a Mechanical Turk, and it would hire people and give them 2 pennies to click cat or not a cat, or hot dog or not a hot dog. And that's called a Mechanical Turk.
Mechanical Turk. Okay. Always learning.
Always learning.
What did you learn today, Scott? I learned a lot of terminology.
Oh, I appreciate it. Well, thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thank you too. And before we go, for the 3 people on the internet that don't know where to find you, where they should look, Scott?
I would encourage them to go to Hansleman.com, Hanselman.com, and check out my website, my podcast, and my YouTube. And I'm anywhere that you want to consume your social media.
Thank you again. Perfect. We will put the links in the description. And to everyone watching, thank you very much. Bye bye. Ciao. Alla prossima.